Welcome to the debate. This is the Premier League preview show. We're asking, what do clubs have to look out for before signing a player in January? What do clubs have to look out for before signing a player in January? Remember, on the 1st of January 2024, they call it the mid-season transfer window. Some call it the winter transfer window. It will open for about a month for teams to fine-tune their squad and prepare for the second half of the season. So we're asking, what should Premier League clubs look out for before signing a player? So maybe I can take your thoughts to start with. If you were advising clubs on signing players in the January window, what should they look out for as they step into the market before the second half of the season takes shape?
Well, the first thing is clubs should plan very well, and you should have done most of your recruitment in the summer. So what you are doing right now is you are fine-tuning the squad. So let's give an example for a Liverpool. Liverpool have got their midfield ready. You might say, maybe we have a midfielder that's a bit injury-prone. Let's bring in an extra midfielder who can cover the 6 and cover the 8, just so that if there's another injury, we have someone to kind of fill in the role. You're not bringing in a transformational player. It's very rare that you bring in a transformational player. I think Virgil van Dijk is the last player I can think of who joined in January was transformational, Okay. But look at the fee they paid for him, because usually January transfers are also inflated in terms of the cost, because finding a replacement mid-season is also much harder for the selling team.
Okay.
So nobody wants to sell their players. So the type of player you're buying, you're looking for someone who can complement the squad, fill a need. He's trying, and usually you're probably buying a player who gives you a little bit of extra cover. Because look at Trossard last season. He came in and did very well. I believe he joined in January. He fits into the squad because he's a player who can play multiple positions. We saw him used as a number 9. We saw him play on the left. We've seen him play as a number 8. So that's the type of player you're looking for in January. You're not looking for a player who's trying to transform. Because look at a player like Enzo, who was brought in to be transformational in January. He's not really settled. And that's because it's the chaos of the team. It's teams that don't plan well who end up trying to make transformational signings in January. Good teams don't generally do that. Unless it's the case where it's like a player who's so impressive suddenly becomes available and you're like, there's no way we are living without this player. Like, we have to get it. But in general, transformational players do not come in January. So you are trying to buy a player who's going to complement your team and just keep your team ticking until the next summer, because what it's looking like is you're probably going for a player that feels like maybe someone's gotten hurt, someone's form is dipping a bit, so you just want a little bit of competition. So don't try and transform, get that transformational player. Don't buy too many players. You probably need 1 or 2 players just to complement the squad and round it out and fill in the tiny little gaps at the edge of the squad. You're not trying to plug in a hole in your spine, because if that's what you're doing, it's going to be a very difficult season, or you're already in trouble, which is why you're trying to plug a hole in your spine.
Interesting. Thank you, Susu. Guys, what do clubs need to look out for?
Well, for me, I think before the season starts, every team sets out with objectives. So in January, you look how far or how far below or how far above you are of your objectives, and that would actually determine what you want to do or what you don't want to do. So if you're a team in and around 15 battling relegation, you need to see, okay, how far away am I from the relegation zone? Okay. Can I bring in a player who can, let's say, add something, make a bit of difference, give us that extra push to be further away from the bottom? If you're a team in and around 6th, 7th, can I bring in a player who can push us further? You also have to take consideration the teams who have a lot of injuries. How soon are those key players going to return from injury? Because if you sign a player, you don't sign him just for 6 months. You are signing him for a long period.
Yeah.
So in as much as you are bringing in a player to fix an immediate solution, you also have to see how he impacts the team or how he fits into the team long term. So for me, those are the key things you would have to look at. Susu has made some very good examples with Liverpool or Arsenal. You look at Arsenal, you would probably look at a player like Ivan Toney, because you need goals. Okay. Your strikers are not scoring as much, neither are your wingers. So those are the kind of dynamics. Your objectives you've set out, how far away you are from them will determine who and what you look at.
Okay.
I mean, there are other teams that have met unforeseen circumstances. So a team like Spurs, it's a typical team that whose backline just disappeared because Van der Ven and Romero left, and Ange does not have trust in a player like Eric Dyer. He doesn't even play him at all. Yeah. So if you're a team in 15th to 20th, you would need you can probably go in for a player like Eric Dyer. maybe.
But would Eric Dyer want to play for a club that's
That's the
15?
conversation.
That would be, but then and Ange Postecoglou has said it that they would need to go into the market and then get defenders in. So find it, because it doesn't seem Van der Ven is going to come in. And if you have a player like Romero, who in discipline,
Romero, he's got injured.
he's got injured.
Yes.
If he's not getting injured, he's getting red cards.
suspended.
So you need to get players in, and you look like teams like Manchester United, where you can see that the depth in certain positions is not as they foresaw, because when you're starting a season, I think teams have objectives and what they think would happen. A player like Rasmus Højlund is just a 20-year-old who has this weight of expectation on him. You are not going to use Anthony Martial because he's never proven reliable. They can try and get in another body. I mean, they tried that last season with this Dutch player. You don't need to.
The oldest like January signing of all time.
You don't need a Virgos. You just need to find a player who can get that 1 or 2 for you but luckily for them, they are out of the Champions League, so maybe that's not a priority. You look at a team like Chelsea, they want to. Even Pochettino said that he doesn't care going into the transfer.
But who else do you want to buy? I mean, a team like Chelsea, who do they need?
I think they need a striker. They need another number 9. Nkunku, Broja are all players they don't trust, and that's the truth. I mean, they have the money. And that's going to be another problem, because that means you have a very big squad. You have a very big
I think
squad.
their squad is past 33 now.
Yeah,
but
that's a lot
Pochettino
of
said
players.
that in his past. If they have to go, they would go into it. So there is that. But sometimes, like Susu said, about how it can decapitate. I know we are talking about the Premier League, but an example is Barcelona going in for Getafe's central midfielder like that. It's going to be hard to get, but then you can see that's a deficiency the team is lacking, because Oriol Romeu is not that good. Pedri is always out. Gavi is also injured. So that's like a need. So a player like Ivan Toney, just like you said, Arsenal, it shouldn't even be a bargain. The only problem they might face with that is the Euros. And is Toney going to get the stats in a team like Arsenal?
Because I think whoever you are signing, that player, most often when you sign players in January, they are not like first choice players. And players will have to understand that I'm coming in probably to fill a role or hold an end. A player like Ivan Toney, I wonder if he would want to.
I think he would want to go to a team like Arsenal. Arsenal is struggling for goals, so that means that you will get some form of opportunity to play. But you also look like there might be a tall order, because there's Nketiah before.
There's Gabi Jesus,
Nketiah.
And you also have to look at their style of play, as your player, your attributes. How does that fit in? So there's so many other things to look at, which generally will not afford you the time to do all that. So it's as Susu said, it's very rare that you buy players who are transformational. You probably just want to buy in, and sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's going to be a hit.
Just on Ivan Toney, I wanted to make a point. I believe that in his case, he's going to come in and end up being the starting striker, because we are looking at a situation.
Is it immediately or over time?
Eventually.
Okay.
However long it takes, because we are looking at a situation where the starting striker has 2 goals. Ivan Toney probably believes that, look, I scored 20 goals last season, more than Jesus did.
Yes.
You know, I'm probably a better finisher. Like, if I'm given enough time, I'm going to displace this guy from the team. Which is probably not the type of signing you want to make in January. You want to do that kind of signing in the summer. But I guess in Ivan Toney's case, maybe it's a bit special because you all know his ban, so he's not played yet this season and that kind of stuff. But when I look at how Brentford are playing, I would advise Arsenal to not go for Ivan Toney, because if Brentford were 9th and sure that they would survive, they might let him go for less. But in a situation where Brentford have lost their last 4 games, they are struggling to get wins.
They also have injuries.
I don't believe Toney will come cheap. So I believe Arsenal should stay away. Not because he's a bad player, but I believe the timing is not ideal for Brentford to sell, which is going to inflate their price and make it even.
It's the same problem Chelsea face.
You are going to lose money you could use on other players. You know?
Okay, interesting stuff, guys. So I think we've laid out the checklist for the clubs, in terms of the kind of business they want to do. Are Liverpool interested in any players?
For Liverpool,
Should they be interested?
Okay, well, I mean, not in January, but if you look at long term and the progression of Trent, I think arguably maybe by next season he'll be starting as a midfielder. I think they need to buy a proper right back. They need to buy a proper
Not Joe
right
Gomez.
They need a body.
He's been impressive. I mean,
I mean,
I hate to say it, but,
Joe
but I
Gomez
think they'll need a proper right back, and then it puts some balance in the team. You get, Endo is 30.
What Thiago Alcantara? I don't think he's there long term.
I
Forgotten about him.
I forgot about him.
But
I
it
saw
looks
it
like
was-
Jurgen Klopp made the decision that he's going to move past him. I think his contract runs out in the summer. Right?
Okay.
You don't go in for an Artabello. That's the sign.
I think that's bad business.
He's
Really
learned his
bad.
lessons from that.
You don't
All right.
go in for.
All right, still watching the Premier League preview show. We'll wrap it up in a second. But